Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm Margaret, and here I share real-life stories from my friends at the nursing home. She whispered it, but I heard her. She smells like poverty. I was holding her child when she said it. My grandson, Arjun, had just drifted off in my arms, his tiny hand curled around the edge of my dupatta like he was afraid I'd vanish. I'd just sung him an old lullaby my mother used to hum to me when the monsoon rain hit the tin roof of our village home. The tune cracked and soft from years of wear. He'd eaten mashed bananas and rubbed most of it onto my sleeve, and I hadn't minded. I loved him with a softness that surprised even me sometimes, not because I didn't expect it, but because after 70 years of enduring so much hardness, I didn't think I had any softness left. The words floated in from the kitchen. Smug, hushed, sharp enough to slice skin. She smells like poverty. Her voice, Hannah's, was dripping with disgust, as though she were discussing a garbage bin left too long in the sun. My son said nothing. Not a word. Not even the smallest protest. I didn't move. I didn't call her out. I just laid Arjun down gently in his crib and pulled the little knitted elephant to his side. Then I stood quietly in the doorway, listening to the refrigerator hum as she talked about weekend plans and gluten-free options. The next morning, I washed my cardigan in the sink, the same cardigan she called shabby chic when her Instagram followers were watching, and just shabby when they weren't. My name is Mira Patel. I am 70 years old. I have sewn more stitches in my life than most people have taken breaths. I was born in a small village in Gujarat. My father was a tailor, my mother a school teacher. We had very little, but enough. I was the third daughter. Too many mouths, too many saris to wash, and not enough land. I learned early that quiet women were useful women. My hands were always moving, shelling peas, darning socks, folding laundry. But sewing was the first thing that felt like mine. When I sat with a needle, I disappeared into it. I still do. I married Arvind when I was 21. A kind, practical man with thick eyebrows and a laugh like a burst balloon. We moved to America when we were both in our 30s, chasing a better life. He worked in a factory. I worked in homes, then dry cleaners, then sewing shops. We rented, saved, pinched pennies like they might cry out. I kept a tin under our bed where I stored every extra dollar, wrapped in plastic and labelled in Gujarati. Then came Raj, one child, our only son, born after 3 miscarriages and 1 stillbirth. He was our world. I remember staying up nights sewing extra pieces so we could afford violin lessons. I remember hand-stitching tiny stars onto his school uniform collar because he liked to feel special when he walked into class. I remember when he got into university, I sold my gold bangles without hesitation. When Arvind died, quietly, while stirring sugar into his tea, I thought the grief would destroy me. But Raj needed me. So I kept going. When he met Hannah, I smiled politely. She wore tight jeans and expensive perfume. Her nails were always done in colours that reminded me of beetles. She was polite at first, distant, but sweet. "You don't have to call me Betty if it feels weird," she'd said with a smile. I never did. She didn't call me Ma either, just her when speaking to others. Her room is downstairs. Her chai smells up the kitchen. When they got married, I gave them everything. $64,000, my life's savings, every cent I had. I'd planned to use it for a small retirement flat, maybe one with a little balcony where I could grow tulsi, but they needed help with the down payment. And Raj was my son, my only son. I didn't even hesitate. He kissed my forehead. "We'll take care of you forever, Ma." Hannah smiled too, all teeth. You'll always have a home with us, she said. Family is everything. I moved into their basement suite the next month. They called it a granny flat on Zillow, but there was no window, no stove, just a kettle, a toaster oven, and a folding chair. I didn't mind at first. I liked being near Arjun. I helped around the house, did laundry, cleaned, cooked when they were too busy or tired. I folded Hannah's leggings and sorted her mail. I didn't complain when she moved my things to make space for her yoga mat. I stayed quiet when she threw away my old spice tins because they made the pantry look cluttered. But over time, something began to crack. Not suddenly, not like glass shattering, but like a fabric that has been worn too thin, a tear at the seam. I noticed it in small things at first. They started buying groceries I didn't know how to cook with: kale, quinoa, oat milk. They stopped asking if I wanted to join dinner. Then came the whispering. She leaves turmeric stains on the counters. Don't let her hold the baby right after cooking. The smell lingers. She watches TV too loud. One day, I found my favorite sari crumpled in a donation bag marked Goodwill. Another time, I asked if I could make pakoras for Arjun's birthday, and Hannah said, "Maybe we can have those at your party, Mira." Then came the photos. They were going through family pictures to frame for the hallway. I watched as Hannah clicked through dozens. "No, not that one. She's in the background," she said. She, not your mom. Just she. I was cropped out of everyone. But nothing. Not the basement, the silence, the exclusion. Hurt like what I heard that evening in the kitchen. She smells like poverty. Not loud, just sharp. And cold. Like a dagger dipped in honey. They were planning a weekend away. "Your mom can babysit," she said. "She's used to being alone. Honestly, I think she likes it. And have you noticed? She kind of smells like old spices and mothballs. I don't know. Like poverty. I just... I can't." Raj didn't correct her. He didn't defend me. He just muttered something about turning on the baby monitor. I stood there for a long time after laying Arjun down. I touched my cardigan, the same one I'd worn for years, and inhaled. I smelled cardamom, masoor dal, earth, love, history, sacrifice, survival. Poverty, maybe? But it was earned, not stolen. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and let the silence settle into my bones. I realized something. I had confused sacrifice for love. And now I was done. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I made tea, quietly, carefully, the way I always did, and didn't bother offering anyone a cup. I sat at the folding table in my basement room, the steam from the masala chai curling into the air, and pulled out the blue folder from the drawer. Inside were bank statements, old letters, the original house purchase paperwork. My name was there, on the down payment wire transfer. They'd added me to the joint savings account too, because Raj had insisted, "It's easier for taxes this way, Ma." I never touched $1 of it. I trusted him. He was my son. But now I realized, trust without dignity is just dependence. I called the credit union and set an appointment. Then I packed a bag. Not the big suitcase, just a small, square duffel. One salwar kameez, a wool shawl, my thimble, and the small framed photo of Arvind and me on our wedding day. By the time I came upstairs, Hannah was already in her gym clothes, eating a rice cake smeared with almond butter. "You're up early," she said, not looking at me. "Arjun didn't sleep well. I think he's teething." I nodded. "I won't be home tonight." She blinked. "Sorry, what?" "I have an appointment." Her face twitched. Surprise, maybe annoyance. "With who?" "The bank." Raj looked up from his phone, suddenly alert. Everything okay, Ma? I'm taking care of some things, I said. Don't worry. He nodded, but something in his eyes flickered. Worry. Guilt? I couldn't tell any more. I'd stopped trying to read his expressions when I realized he'd stopped trying to read mine. The woman at the bank, Janet, in her 60s with pearl earrings and kind eyes, looked over my paperwork. You want to withdraw your name from this joint account? Yes. And move your share to a new personal account? Yes. She didn't ask why. She simply offered me a small smile and nodded. You'd be surprised how many mothers do this, she said softly. I signed the papers with steady hands. Not because I wasn't scared, but because I was tired of being scared. Next, I went to the retirement village I'd secretly visited 3 months before, back when I first started feeling like a guest in my own life. I had applied quietly. The rent wasn't cheap, but I could afford it, now that I had taken back what was mine. The building wasn't fancy, but it was warm. It smelled like fresh laundry and cinnamon. There was a small courtyard with a garden, and a common room where a group of women were playing cards and laughing too loudly. I liked that. Move-in date? The manager asked. Tomorrow, I said, if possible. I returned to their house late that evening. Raj was putting Arjun to bed. Hannah was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. You didn't say where you were going, she muttered, not looking up. I said I had an appointment. I thought maybe you got lost or something. Her voice had a sharp edge, like she wanted to sting me, but still be able to claim she was just being helpful. I walked past her and went downstairs. I folded my remaining clothes, wrapped the photo frame in a towel, and placed it in my duffel. That night, I wrote a letter. Dear Raj, you were my heart, my reason. Everything I did for you. But I realize now that in giving you everything, I gave you permission to forget what I was worth. This house was built with my savings. The food in your fridge, the crib your son sleeps in, the security you both take for granted. I helped give that to you. Not for thanks, just for respect. You don't owe me anything, Beta, but I don't owe you silence either. I have removed my name from the house account and the savings, the trust for Arjun, the one I set up when he was born. I've also withdrawn. I hope one day you'll tell him the truth about the woman who rocked him to sleep every night. I am not angry, just done. Ma! I left before sunrise. No fanfare. Just a cab, pulling away from the curb with my duffel at my feet, and the sunrise bleeding into the sky like a quiet promise. The retirement village gave me a small room on the second floor. It had a window with a view of the garden, a sewing table, if I wanted to use it, and a kettle. For real tea, not oat milk nonsense. The first thing I unpacked was my sewing box. A week later, I walked past a boutique on Main Street. It had a sign in the window. Tailor wanted, must have experience with hand finishing. I smiled, walked in, asked to speak to the owner. The girl behind the counter looked about 25, pierced nose, kind eyes. Her name was Lena. I told her I used to sew bridal blouses in Gujarat. No machine, just silk thread and patience. She looked skeptical. Do you have a portfolio? I pulled a napkin from my purse. On it, I'd embroidered a single peacock feather. Neat. Delicate. She stared at it like it was a painting. When can you start? She asked. 2 weeks later, Raj called. 4 missed calls, then a voicemail. Ma, Hannah said you took your name off everything. Is everything okay? Just call me back, please. Then a text. We didn't mean what you think you heard. I didn't respond. A few days after that, they came to the retirement home. Raj looked tired, like he hadn't slept. Hannah looked worse, furious, eyes red, not from sadness, from embarrassment. "We're struggling now," she said, arms folded. "Groceries are more expensive. You can't just walk away like this." I smiled gently. Then I reached into my bag and handed her a receipt from the last grocery trip I made before I left. $312.49. No reimbursement, no guilt, just the math. Hannah stared at the receipt like it might burst into flames in her hands. "You're seriously handing this to me?" she snapped. I didn't answer right away. I just sat down slowly on the garden bench behind me, motioning for her to do the same. She didn't. Raj stood beside her, face pale, eyes flicking from me to the ground, like a boy who's broken a window and hopes no one notices. "I fed your son, cleaned your kitchen, folded your laundry, and boiled the lentils you ate without saying thank you," I said softly, "for 3 years, and I never once asked for anything back. That receipt? That's the last thing I ever bought for your home. Consider it a souvenir." "I didn't ask you to do those things," Hannah said, lips tight. "You chose to." "Yes," I said. "I chose to love my family, and you chose to treat me like a stain you couldn't scrub out." Raj stepped forward. "Ma, please, this isn't you." "No," I said, standing. "This is me. You just didn't want to see her." The weeks that followed were peaceful, in a way I hadn't felt in decades. I started working part-time at Lena's boutique, 2 days a week, 3 when they had a bridal order. I became the go-to for vintage alterations, reworking heirloom saris, restoring old lace gowns. They called me Mira Auntie at the shop. Customers left me cards. One even brought me flowers. One afternoon, Lena turned to me as I was pinning the hem on a velvet dress and asked, "Do you ever regret leaving?" I didn't even have to think. No. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even the cruelty. It was the forgetting. How easily they forgot I had once been someone. Someone with a life, a name, a purpose. Now I was remembered. And more importantly, I remembered myself. One day, a letter came in the mail. Plain envelope. No return address. Inside was a drawing. A crude sketch in crayon of a woman holding a little boy, sitting on a rocking chair. At the bottom it said, "Daddy, I miss you." I closed my eyes and let the ache settle where it needed to. Then I folded the letter, tucked it into the drawer beside my bed, and wrote a reply. "My sweet Arjun, I miss you too, so much. I'm in a happy place now, with a garden and friends. I hope one day we can sit together again, and I'll teach you how to sew buttons onto your shirt and make perfect round rotis. Be kind, even when others are not. With all my love, Daddy." I mailed it the next morning with a small bundle, a hand-embroidered handkerchief, and a photo of me holding him on the day he was born. I didn't know if Hannah would let him keep it. But it didn't matter. Some things aren't for them. They're for the child who might remember what love smelled like. Cumin and cardamom, worn wool, warm arms. About a month later, Lena approached me while I was threading a needle. "You're not going to believe who just tried to book a rush order." I raised an eyebrow. "Hannah Patel," she said, "bride's sister. Apparently her cousin's wedding is next week, and she needs alterations on 3 lehengas." I paused for a long moment, then smiled. "Tell her we're fully booked." Lena grinned. "I already did. My new room has a window seat where I sit every morning and watch the world wake up. There's a little pot of basil on the sill, a second-hand armchair with soft upholstery, a photo of Arvind in a wooden frame on the wall, and my sewing box, open and busy again. Sometimes the ladies in the building bring me torn jackets and too long pants. I don't charge them. I just like to keep my hands busy. Other days, I sit and read or drink chai while the radio hums softly in the background. Every Thursday, I join a little knitting group in the common room. We're all different: widows, divorcees, a woman who used to be a high school principal, another who worked in a casino for 40 years. We laugh. We talk about grandchildren and recipes and old movies. No one asks what we used to be. They only care who we are now. I still think of Raj sometimes. I even miss him, in a distant, hollow way, the way someone misses a train that stopped coming long ago. But I don't regret leaving. I don't wish I had screamed or fought. My revenge was not in words. It was in the quiet withdrawal of everything I gave: money, time, love, effort. I let her see what luxury costs when you treat the people who build it like dirt beneath your shoes. I never needed to yell. I just left. And now I live. Every morning, I wake to light pouring through my window, warming the worn wood floors. I rise slowly, make tea exactly the way I like it, and sit with my sewing in my lap, listening to the soft chatter of birds outside. No one interrupts me. No one tells me what I smell like. I stitch for pleasure now, not survival. For the first time in my life, I live not out of sacrifice, but choice. And I've discovered that dignity, once reclaimed, smells like jasmine, old books, and freedom.